Welcome to Prospects to Pros, where we talk about the guys that are going to be in the draft next year, the guys that just got drafted this year, and a little bit beyond if I saw some sophomore I really like. I'm Andy Staples. He's Dane Brugler, and we are talking NFL draft from a college perspective, from a pro perspective. This is your link between the college game and the pro game. And Dane, I had a front row seat for a lot of guys that we're going to be talking about, I'd say over the next 3 years, because I was at Alabama, Texas A&M this past weekend, down on the sideline there at the end of the game. I was watching a lot of Alabama defenders that I know we're going to talk about today, but also I was thinking as I was walking off the field and some of Texas A&M's freshman defensive linemen were walking behind me, I was looking back and I was like, we're going to be talking about these guys pretty soon too.
Can any of them throw the football? I mean, can they? I mean, that seems to be the biggest problem for A&M, right? They just can't find a quarterback, which we mentioned before with Jimbo. But I want to know, what did PFF rate your catch on the sidelines there? I mean, it's one-handed, so that the difficulty level is a little higher.
It was tipped.
Crunch time.
I think they're good, but I feel like because I was multitasking, because I don't think any football player has ever been asked to catch a football while filming something with his phone. Like, I never stop filming. I have the entire catch on video. My right hand never moved. And so I want some credit for that, but it was tipped. So it wasn't like I speared some laser beam from Haynes King, which, by the way, a few plays later on the last play of the game, he did throw an absolute laser beam that no human being, I don't care how good they are, could have caught. So I know you Texas A&M fans wanted pass interference. That ball is uncatchable. Yeah. The ball I caught was quite catchable, and I got an assist from Ross Bjork, the Texas A&M athletic director, former Emporia State fullback, by the way. Fullback's supposed to have a little better hands than that, but it was high. He had to jump, and so yeah, I got he tipped it. And it hit my left hand and I pulled it into the body. I don't think, if I was doing a clinic, I don't think they'd tell you to catch it like that.
Well, and I heard you talk about it on the podcast with you and Ari Sunday morning. And then I didn't notice it live. And then I was watching the tape Monday morning and I saw it. And I was literally the Leo gif pointing like, oh, hey, there it is. I forgot all about it. But I did two things I want to know from your trip. First, the best thing you ate of your trip, and then the best player not named Will Anderson that you saw on the field Saturday night in that game.
So the best thing I ate, and this is tough because I had a 30-ounce bone-out ribeye at Republic in College Station. So if that had been a bone-in, like a tomahawk ribeye, we'd be talking like 48 or 54 ounces. It was very nice. I had ribs at Pig and Pint in Jackson, Mississippi, which is an excellent barbecue place if you're ever in Jackson, if somebody's doing a Dion story or just going to see the Tigers play. That's a great spot. Actually, probably about a mile from Jackson State. Had two different kinds of biscuits and one kind of biscuits, two kinds of gravy, a big bag breakfast in Oxford, Mississippi. Had ribs at Archibald's in Northport, Alabama, which is Metro Tuscaloosa. Those are my favorite ribs in the universe. Those are probably the best thing I ate, but they're not new to me, so I that's hard to say. But I'll give you two. I'll give you two. The Hot Mama Pizza at Slice in Birmingham, and a lot of places are doing this now, where they go really hot and then drizzle the hot honey over it. So it's sopressata, and it's got Calabrian peppers, and it's got hot honey. And it's got pepperoni. It is awesome. So
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, Slice in Birmingham. I think the first place that did that was a place called Polly G's in Brooklyn, which is also very good. But that is one of the better pizzas I've had. And then in Oxford at Snack Bar, which is part of the John Currents empire. John Currents is the chef at City Grocery. He runs Big Bad Breakfast. He has Bourrée, but Snack Bar is kind of his lab. And the special on the night we went, it was cookbook night. So it's usually a page out of one of John's cookbooks. This time it was a page out of one of his friend's cookbooks. It was this lamb shank and had been reduced into this brown gravy pool that is swimming in with a bunch of root vegetables in there. Like, I would go swimming in the gravy that this lamb shank made. And they had confit duck wings as an appetizer. So it was spectacular. Now, best player not named Will Anderson. By the way, Will Anderson, everything he was advertised to be. He was in Haynes King's lap every single play.
I got tweets that 0 sacks. The guy had double-digit pressures. I mean, he was in the back. He lived in the backfield. Like, what are we watching here?
If you are watching that game, if you actually physically had the game on and you were tweeting at Dane about 0 sacks, just stop watching football because you don't understand it. You just give up. You're hopeless. Yeah. So yeah, he was a monster in that game. But the guy I want to talk about is Brian Branch, who he's a safety, but in that kind of maybe not Minkah Fitzpatrick versatility level, but very versatile. Can do all the different things that they need in Alabama's secondary. And it's more interesting, I think, when he's off the field. You know, he was there the entire time against Texas A&M. Against Arkansas, he goes off the field, and all of a sudden Arkansas makes it a game. And that tells you how important this guy is.
That's exactly what I was going to hit on. I mean, the last 2 weeks, I think, really encapsulates just how important he is to that defense. And you mentioned Minkah. He plays the same position, that star position. And for Branch, you have to be there's so much stress put on you as that nickel defender because you have to be an open field tackler. You have to be a guy that can handle size in the slot, but also speed in the slot. And he does both really, really well. He led all tacklers in that game with 9 tackles, 2 of them for loss, a couple of those where it just triggers downhill and makes a stop behind the line of scrimmage. He also had 2 pass breakups where I love his feet. He's so controlled with his footwork in any direction, backpedal, collect himself, and then to drive on the route. It's really impressive to watch. So I think there are definitely other contenders here. I mean, Dallas Turner he's not quite Will Anderson, but he's close. Only a true sophomore. We'll be talking about him a lot next year. So just from a leadership and coaching standpoint, is so important to that defense. But I mean, I agree. I mean, besides Will Anderson's the most important player on that defense. Brian Branch, I think, is number 2. He was number 26 in my early. Up to, if not help himself more. Especially when you talk about the NFL, nickel is base. What teams are looking for from that position, be able to play. And I think with Branch, too, he could play that outside corner. He could play any safety position. He is exactly what a lot of teams are looking for.
Yeah, and the thing is, that star position, you have to be Nick Saban's brain on the field. Minkah sort of designed that position, for lack of a better word. He and Saban together designed that position because they were evolving what they were doing while Minkah was in school. If you watch, I think it was the 2015 season. I think it was Minka's freshman year. They were much more traditional. Like, Minkah was a corner, and they were still trying to figure out what their actual base was going to look like. And so Minkah helped Nick Saban figure out what to do with that position. And Eddie Jackson also helped with one of the other safety positions where they kind of figured out what the best way to use these guys was, because it was an evolution. You know, that they thought they were pure corners when they got there. And then they figured out, no. In this new world of spread offenses, you need this person to do all of these things. And so Brian Branch is just kind of following in those footsteps. And he does seem to be the kind of guy who kind of mind melds with Nick Saban and does what he's supposed to. Another guy I did want to point out is Terrion Arnold, the corner, who was covering. Yeah, he was covering Evan Stewart on the final play. He has done a great job putting himself in a position to, beating out guys that were even more highly recruited than him, and they're all highly recruited at Alabama. But I just want to point out what he did on the final play, and it's just really smart. He's known as one of their smarter defenders.
Yeah.
But he looked at Jimbo Fisher on the sideline right before the final play, and he saw Jimbo Fisher mouthing the words Evan, 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 trying to get Haynes King's attention. Haynes King is Texas A&M's quarterback. It was basically that they were running a play that they had scored on earlier in the game. And there's trips, 3 receivers to the top of the route, to the quarterback's left side. There's an ISO to the quarterback's right side. They went to the quarterback's left side to score, but Alabama changed the coverage and they were forcing everything down essentially. And so Jimbo saw that obviously from the sideline and knew that Evan Stewart was the only potential receiver that they could hit. And so he's yelling, or he's saying, Evan, Evan, Evan. And Terry Arnold sees him and he's like, okay, it's coming to me. And he jumps it more than he would have jumped it before. And it worked. Now,
and
the throw probably wasn't there, but even if it had been, it would have been a tough catch.
They threw it Arnold's way a lot. I mean, I think he had 8 or 9 targets. And part of that is just the way he was covering. Part of it is staying away from Kool-Aid on the other side. But yeah, I give him a lot of credit. He had an interception also in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was a guy that made me, okay, I usually don't take notes on non-draft eligible guys just because I only have so much room in my brain for the thousands of players in this draft. But he made me take notes and say, okay, this guy, the way he's playing, that aggressive nature that he has. And yeah, I think a lot of people coming into the year were talking about Eli Ricks, the LSU transfer going to Alabama. And what I heard from Alabama was, hey, this guy's not even going to start. And so that's why in my cornerback preview in August, Eli Ricks didn't make my top 5. He didn't make, like a lot of, because everything I was hearing was there are other guys on the depth chart that are beating him out, being more consistent. And I think, the move will be good for Eli Ricks. I mean, discipline. If you're not disciplined in that Saban scheme, you're not going to play. And I think eventually he'll get things figured out, but it's pretty clear he needs a crash course in that Saban scheme until he figures things out. But yeah, and really, and the safeties too. I want to mention the safeties besides Branch, because I mean, I think DeMarco Hellams coming into the year was known as a really good run defender, but he's going to give up plays and coverage, and he still will give up a play in coverage. But I think he's playing a lot better with just the spatial relationship of where he needs to be. It has been, I think, a big improvement. So Hellams has played. He before the year looked at as maybe a 4th, 5th, 6th round guy. Now he's going to be pushing for top 100 consideration with the way he's playing. And then, of course, Jordan Battle had the interception late in that game as well. There's a lot to like about that entire safety depth chart that Alabama's rolling out there.
DeMarco Hellams also, by the way, almost killed me with his helmet at the end of the game. He was very excited. He throws it straight up in the air. I've got a shot of it with my phone. I tried to do the NFL films, like track the ball in flight. Mm-hmm. And then I realized after I saw it land, I'm like, wow, that almost hit me. That was probably not smart to be trying to film that instead of just getting out of the way. And the other crazy thing at the end was, so I'm walking, I was right in the corner where all the throw happened. I'm walking around and I see Kool-Aid McKinstry come walking by and he goes, what happened? And I'm like, oh, he doesn't know. He's on the other side of the field. He has no idea what went down on that play because they weren't showing replays because all of a sudden the game's over and everybody's just celebrating. Right. But it's funny when you think about that, like a guy who's a very important part of the play has no idea what happened on the play.
Yeah. That's it. Because he's focused on his receiver. He's probably not looking back towards the quarterback because everything happened so quickly.
Yeah.
On that final play. So that's funny that he didn't know. That's really funny.
Yeah, and I just love good nicknames. It's a great year for nicknames in the SEC. You've got Kool-Aid McKinstry, you've got Rocket Sanders at Arkansas, you got Squirrel White at Tennessee. So this is I can't wait to see these guys in the draft, machine with the how'd you get your nickname stories. Pork Chop Womack is still always going to be my favorite though. So
there's a lot. I mean. Not even some of the nicknames, but some of the just normal names are great. I mean, Cavassier Smoke, Kentucky. I mean, that's as good as it gets. There's a lot of good ones for sure.
Well, we had not this past weekend, but there was an East-West Bowl, Key and Peele East-West Bowl quarterback matchup in the NFL with Aaron Rodgers, who was in an East-West Bowl skit, and Bailey Zappi. Like, Bailey Zappi. I don't know if he'd do Bailey Zappi Western Kentucky or Bailey Zappi Houston Baptist.
Yeah, that's
on
true.
the East West Bowl, but it was one of those matchups. So yeah, it was very nice to see those guys in person up close. Anderson is just phenomenal to watch. Like it is so much fun to see him figure out how to get past whatever an offense throws at him. And it's interesting because he was such a threat. Like that last play, I know we keep talking about it, but in the college football world is a very controversial play because you've got the A&M fans killing Jimbo for the play call, but you've also got the A&M fans saying it was pass interference. But what you're not figuring, what they're not also including in that is Haynes King threw the ball probably a touch early because he was terrified of Will Anderson getting him. Now, Will Anderson on that play was being blocked by the right tackle and shipped by either a tight end or a back, and he still was about to get through.
Right. That's what makes him so special is you have to account for him on every single play. And even if we just talked about how even if he's not getting sacks, he's still being disruptive just from a game plan perspective because, like you said, the quarterback knows he's coming. The offense has to make sure that he has help to that side, whether it is a tight end or a running back staying in the pocket to pass protect, whatever it is, you have to have a plan for a guy like that. You have to game plan for Will Anderson. And in the NFL, there are definitely guys that you have to do that with, whether it's Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. But, in the college level, it's something that's even tougher to do. And when Will Anderson gets to the NFL, he's going to be that type of guy that he's going to be that pass rusher you have to count for in every single play. So and that's why no matter, whoever has the first overall pick, good chance we see a quarterback there, but Will Anderson's going to at least make it a conversation. And he's still the overwhelming favorite to be the first non-quarterback drafted.
And another guy I did want to point out after seeing him in person is Chris Braswell, who's one of the other edge rushers at Alabama. And Anderson and Dallas Turner get all the publicity, but I don't think there's much drop off when it's Anderson and Braswell or Turner and Braswell. When 31 comes off, which is Anderson, and 41 Braswell is on, they're still getting to the quarterback. They're still pressuring that guy. So Braswell's a junior.
Yeah,
he redshirted in 2020. He's draft eligible this year, but this may be a situation, and you've seen this at Alabama a lot with like Jonathan Allen, Dalvin Tomlinson, guys that could come out, could be decent draft picks, but then they stay for one more year and they star, and then they become a first round type draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, he has 0 starts to his name, because he's coming off the bench, and but he's a guy that last year we saw flashes, we saw a little bit of it, and then this year I think he's getting better and better with each game. He's got a sack each of the last 3 weeks. Another guy that when he's out there, he's being disruptive. He's living on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and you see the speed. You see a guy that the closing burst is really impressive, especially a guy that's 6'3", 245 pounds. So I mean, you can almost guarantee that Saban's going to have the full court press saying, okay, well, as soon as Will's going to leave and you're going to step up, and it's going to be you in Dallas next year, just to make sure he doesn't go anywhere. But to your point, he is 3 years removed from high school. He is technically eligible, so a name that needs to at least be on the radar.
Yeah, because it could be situational. He could blow up. I remember Kevin Dodd at Clemson a few years ago had the great college football playoff, wasn't going to leave, and then was like, yeah, it's probably time to go. So, and I think he wound up being an early second round draft pick. So we'll see what happens with him. Anthony Steen is another one I wanted to point out, the Alabama left tackle who was at Vanderbilt. Alabama, the spot recruiting out of the portal for positions of need, they have not been able to just plug and play on their offensive line necessarily. They last year they had some issues at right tackle. It took them a little while to figure out what they wanted to do. This year they're still not perfect on the offensive line. This is not the 2020 offensive line or the 2018 offensive line, but getting Anthony Steen has solidified a lot of things, and I think he's one that he played at Vanderbilt, and now he's basically going to grad school at Alabama, except the master's degrees in football.
We've seen Alabama really be smart about this. I mean, last year bringing in Jameson Williams, bringing in Henry Toto. I mean, 2 of the most impactful transfers you could possibly have, and we're seeing it again this year. And the offensive line has not been a strength, like you mentioned. I think maybe Javian Cohen, the left guard, I think probably has been the most consistent of that group. But it's been good to see. And now, big question. Okay, as we look forward, Bryce Young, is he going to be ready to? Yeah, he didn't. I don't know if you saw this from the press box. Or he didn't. I don't think he took any warm up tosses.
No, he did not.
Right?
We were watching very closely. He
Okay.
did not even throw in warm-ups. And from what Saban said Monday of last week, Thursday of last week, after the game, and then yesterday, they are approaching this very carefully, because the thought is if you do too much, it's an AC joint sprain. If you do too much with it, you could do more permanent damage or longer lasting damage. And their idea is if they wait long enough, they can get him back and he'll be able to just play the rest of the season. But if they bring him back too early, they might lose him for longer. So it's a tightrope they're walking. That said, Jalen Milroe did not play that well. Now, he played really well against Arkansas, but he struggled against Texas A&M, which is a much more athletic front seven than Arkansas, and they were all over him.
Well, the turnovers. I mean, that was the big
killers.
That's it. That was the difference, really, in terms of the offense not being able to move the football consistently. And I mean, that's a young player who is still figuring things out. Where Bryce Young obviously is the veteran. Now going to next week in Knoxville against a Tennessee team that just blew the pants off of LSU this past weekend in Baton Rouge. This is going to be a really interesting game, and whether Bryce Young's in there or not, it's going to be a fascinating matchup of teams that are really talented. And hopefully, we see Bryce Young out there, because you want to see best versus best. Plus, it'd be awesome to see Hendon Hooker go up against Bryce Young. Those two quarterbacks, who are two of the better quarterbacks that are going to be in next year's draft. It'd be a lot of fun. But you think about that environment in Knoxville, what it's going to be like for that team. I mean, this is going to be a really fun matchup.
It will. Here's the thing. If Young doesn't play, this is going to be a really interesting game, because I think at full strength, Alabama is still better than Tennessee. And Tennessee might be able to beat him with a perfect game if Alabama's at full strength. But if Young's not playing, there's a real good chance Tennessee wins. And if Alabama plays the way they did against Texas A&M, they will lose to Tennessee by 2 or 3 touchdowns. That was as bad as I've seen an Alabama team play and still win. And I was shocked that they managed to pull it out, because they were just mistake after mistake. And it wasn't just the fumbles, but I'm not used to seeing that from a Nick Saban coach team. So we'll see if they get that cleaned up.
And for Tennessee against LSU, I think the most encouraging thing for me was Hendon Hooker. It was not a great game for him. It was an okay game, but I thought he missed several throws that he should have made. But they still blew him out. I mean, it was not even. I don't think there was a point in that game where you thought, okay, this is going to be close, or well, maybe if LSU scores a touchdown here, maybe. It was 10-0 4 minutes into the game, and it just felt like, okay, well, this is over. And so Tennessee, they're not at full strength either. They're missing Cedric Tillman, their stud receiver, but
he may be back this week,
which would be great. But seeing Brew McCoy, who
I was going to ask you about him
at USC, he's really coming into his own. He had a career game against LSU. He's really the talent we heard about. He's really starting to show it. That's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and Jalen Hyatt's the other one who's been very good for them.
Speed with him.
Yeah, Brew McCoy is such an interesting one, because remember he was committed to USC. He signed with Texas. He goes to Texas. He transfers to USC. There was stuff at USC. I think he was accused of something, cleared of it, leaves again. And then it's just now he's finally showing what everybody expected when he was a 5-star recruit. And boy, they needed it too.
Oh yeah.
They needed it with Cedric Tillman out, because Cedric Tillman, high ankle sprain against Kent State. And the thought was, here's the first 1,000-yard receiver at Tennessee since Justin Hunter. If you take him out of the offense, will the offense still move? Yeah. Yep. Still moves really great. So imagine with him back in there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have talent. The running back was
Jabari
outstanding.
Small, yeah.
Yeah, he did a great job. The offensive line is playing well. So that Tennessee offense is more than just Hendon Hooker. McCoy, a guy that size, playing with that type of speed. Not only can he beat you with that physicality, he's got a stiff arm. He'll break tackles, but he's got some speed to him as well. So that absolutely, that Tennessee offense will put up points, and it'll be awesome to watch that Tennessee offense go up against this Alabama defense, which is most of the inconsistencies for Alabama's been on offense, but on defense, we just got done talking about all those guys, a lot of future pros. Seeing how Hendon Hooker handles the moment, going up against the best defense he's going to face all season. Well, maybe Georgia has something to say with that. We'll see. But it's going to be a really fun environment to watch, to scout a game, to see how these guys do on the big stage like that.
Yeah, and it's going to feel like a monster stage. There'll be more people in Neyland Stadium than they'll ever see in an NFL stadium, and
yeah,
they'll be drunker than the people they'll see in an NFL stadium. So it'll be fun.
Handicap it for me. Let's just say that Bryce Young does not play. What's the line on that game?
Okay, I would say if Bryce Young doesn't play, I would actually favor Tennessee by 3 in that game.
So, yeah, I was gonna say like a 2.5. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Because I don't think Tennessee is going to score as prolifically as they have against these other teams, but they will score. And Alabama will be incredibly conservative on offense if Jalen Milroe has to start. And so that's going to give Tennessee the ball give more cracks at that defense.
Right. And if Bryce Young does play, there's still some unknown there coming off the injury. He hasn't thrown the ball in 2 weeks. So even if he does play, it's not going to be Alabama favored by 10. It's not going to be that type of line.
I do think if Bryce Young plays and his arm's feeling okay, that they can move the ball pretty well. I mean, you watch Florida just move the ball up and down the field on them.
Yeah.
And Anthony Richardson is not anywhere near as polished a quarterback as Bryce Young, but Florida could run and could throw. And that's where Tennessee gets in trouble. If you're one-dimensional against Tennessee, they'll shut you down. That's what happened to LSU. Is Jaden Daniels can run, he can escape, he can keep some plays alive. But if you force him to be a drop back thrower, you're not getting much out of that. So that's what Tennessee erased LSU's run game and forced Jaden Daniels to beat them with his arm, and he couldn't. Bryce Young will beat you with his arm, and they do have a prolific run game at Alabama.
Yeah, and it's interesting watching Alabama games, seeing them look a little mortal, against Texas, against obviously A&M. There are certain circumstances with Bryce Young out, but it should be another one against Tennessee where it's not going to be Alabama just blowing this team out. It should be a really interesting game that we'll see how coaching factors into it. We'll see how some of these players that we've been talking up, how they factor into it. So it'll be a good one on Saturday.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how this has worked with Alabama, because 5 years ago, this doesn't have. They don't look mortal. They have the depth that if something goes wrong, they have another person just ready to plug in. Like when Brian Branch went out against Arkansas, they wouldn't have dropped off a bit. But with Kirby Smart at Georgia, he's taking 2 or 3 players who would have gone to Alabama every year. Jimbo Fisher is taking a player or 2 that would have gone to Alabama every year. Billy Napier at Florida, the plan is to take a guy or 2 who would have gone to Alabama every year. And you do that over and over and over again, and your depth erodes. Suddenly you are not so much deeper. Your backups are not better than everybody else's starters. And that's where Alabama's probably finding themselves right now, even though their starter's still probably better than almost everybody else's. But Dane, let's talk about the guys that are already in the NFL. This has been a good year for rookie corners, and Sauce Gardner getting his first interception this week. So it feels like a good time to talk about the rookie corners.
Yeah, it's great. I counted it up this morning, and this kind of surprised me. We have 12 rookies with at least 1 interception. And most of those guys are corners. And so seeing Tariq Woolen with 3 interceptions now, still just, and I tweeted about this over the weekend, shocked. This guy fell to the 5th round. Fell out of the top 150 picks. This guy's 6'4", 205 pounds. He was on Bruce Feldman's Freaks list. We heard, watching him on tape, you see the speed, a former wide receiver. But he goes to the combine and he lives up to it. He runs a 4.26. He has a 42-inch vertical. Somehow the NFL lets this guy fall to the 5th round. And it's just really, really confusing. This is the type of guy NFL teams gush over, the raw tools.
Right. They overdraft.
Yeah. 99% of the time they overdraft him in the top 100 picks. I think he finished like 80 for me on my top 100. He belongs in the first 3 rounds, but I don't know if I could justify a top 50 pick on him. But he's been playing. You see some of the undisciplined play with him. I think he's got like 6 penalties so far. He's given up plenty of catches, but he's also making plays. Did you see him almost track down Taysom Hill?
Yes.
That long. I mean, it just looked like everyone else was kind of jogging and they weren't. They're running as fast as they can. Meanwhile, Tariq Woolen, just unbelievable speed. He reaches him before he gets to the end zone. It doesn't. He's not able to tackle him. But before Hill goes into the end zone, but the speed is just unbelievable with him.
Yeah, UTSA has been putting out some good players of late. I mean, this is now. Why am I blanking? The defensive end for the Saints, Marcus Davenport. And this is. I have a feeling we're going to see more of this from UTSA. But yeah, it is amazing how much these guys have been able to plug in. Now, Kaiir Elam was not supposed to be playing as much as he is, but he's in there because of an injury. Mm-hmm. Jack Jones has been he's been really good.
I would say that besides, I think Sauce has probably been the best rookie corner so far. Tariq Woolen certainly has an argument. Jack Jones, he might have the best argument of all. He's playing. So often we judge rookies based off of just production. Who has the most sacks, who's got the most tackles, who's got the most interceptions. But down to down, snap to snap, Jack Jones has been maybe the best rookie corner we've had so far this year. It's been really impressive to see him go out there and cover space. He's doing a really nice job understanding route concepts. You could tell he puts in the time during the week to understand what the offense is trying to do. And for a guy that's not big, I mean, he is 5'9", but he plays with the confidence that he's 6'3". It's been a lot of fun to watch Jack Jones. We saw that a little bit at USC, feels like 10 years ago now, but he got into academic trouble, goes to Arizona State, kind of rebuilds himself there in that program. Talking to some people close to that program before the draft, guys like, Marvin Lewis and Antonio Pierce and, guys that were around those guys at Arizona State on Herm Edwards' staff. They all said a lot of the same things about him was just, he needs to learn how to be a professional, but talent-wise, this guy's it. He has everything that you possibly want, except for maybe just the size. So I thought he went maybe a little bit earlier than we thought. He went in the 4th round, but Bill Belichick obviously knew what he was doing.
Yeah, and the ball skills that you saw in that Lions game, he could have played receiver in college. I don't think it was a question because of his size kind of pushed him toward corner anyway, but he was a very good receiver at Long Beach Poly High, home of the Jackrabbits, the school where Snoop Dogg and Cameron Diaz once attended together at the same time. But yeah, he's one of those, he's just an all-around football player. It's like I talk about with those safeties. I always bring up Jaquan Brisker, Jalen Petrie, guys like that.
Yep.
Just a football player. Like with Belichick, and we saw it years ago with Troy Brown, but if they needed a slot receiver suddenly and they were in a roster crunch, I bet Belichick would put a package in for Jack Jones as slot receiver.
Yeah. Heck yeah. I mean, it's just the days of Troy Brown, playing both ways. And like you said, just a football player, a guy that, you can trust him to make plays. He's got those instincts that sometimes you don't always, find the words to explain it, but you just know it when you see it, when you see him perform on the field. And I think Jack Jones certainly has that. I mean, here are the rookie corners with at least 1 interception. Tariq Woolen's got 3. Jack Jones has 2. Jalen Watson has the 1, which is obviously that big one. Sauce Gardner, Kaiir Elam got his first. Stingley got his first over the weekend. Kobe Durant with the Rams, and then Jerron Bland with the Cowboys. So we've seen and then the cornerbacks that have their interceptions. Devin Lloyd has 2. Jalen Petrie has 2. Rodney Thomas has 1. Travon Walker. I think that's it. So yeah, it's been interesting to see some of these corners play well. Martin Emerson for the Browns, I thought has played really well. Denzel Ward's been a little up and down. Gregory Newsome's been okay, but Martin Emerson, teams are throwing a lot at him. Avoiding Denzel Ward and Newsome, going after the rookie. And Emerson, for the most part, has been up to the task. He's got beat a few times. I know, Garrett Wilson got him rookie on rookie in the Jets game, but Martin Emerson, I think, has played. He's been up to the task for what the Browns have asked him to do.
And if you like Mississippi State corners like Martin Emerson, get ready for Emmanuel Forbes next year. So
SEC tied the SEC record for most pick sixes in a career with 4.
Emmanuel Forbes he's a magnet for pick sixes. And why you would ever throw an out against him mystifies me. And I think it may have been Jack Jones who said it. Yeah, when they played the Packers, he's like, it's disrespectful to throw an out against me.
He was offended. He genuinely offended. And Forbes he's got a little of that honey badger to him where he'll freelance a little bit. He'll do maybe not. It might not play technically sound all the time, but just because he understands what he needs to do to bait the throw. He understands the spacing and what he needs to do where he can make up that space, still take the ball away. So yeah, Emmanuel Forbes is a fun player.
It's funny, the honey badger. I brought up Jalen Petrie and Jaquan Brisker. That's who I should have mentioned as the football player, just the guy who makes plays. And it's funny how our way of looking at these things has changed, because we were talking about Brian Branch earlier, and I was talking about how he and Minkah Fitzpatrick helped kind of design that position. I remember when Tyrann Mathieu was at LSU, and we were like, well, I don't know how good of a just cover corner he is. He's not a lockdown corner. And it's like, what do you mean? He's the antidote for all these offenses that are proliferating everywhere in the sport. And we're just like, well, I don't know if he could, play one-on-one on an island.
It's hard to believe that was like a dozen years ago now. I think it's 2010 season maybe. But I mean, it was, he's not the biggest guy. He's not a guy that you think of as this unbelievable tester. But he just goes out there and make plays. I mean, whether he's lined up in the nickel, whether he's lined up as a safety. I mean, he just whatever you ask him to do, he'll go out there and make plays. And you start to, he's a good, for me personally, it was a good learning experience I'm coming up, I'm learning how to scout and what to look for and certain traits. And at some point you just have to ask yourself, can this guy play football? It's easy to overthink some of these guys. But you just need to focus on, hey, can he play football? And he did it in the SEC week in, week out. He obviously there's more going on with him with the suspension and everything like that. But yeah, he's more than lived up to, what we thought he could be in the NFL.
All right, let's talk about a couple rookie offensive linemen that we've mentioned before, maybe not in the best light, but I think it's time to give them their flowers as they've improved as the season's going on. We mentioned Cole Strange week 1. Cole Strange seems to be doing great. This may be another case of Bill Belichick just knows a lot more about football than the rest of us. He's the guard out of UT Chattanooga who the Patriots took in the first round, and everybody's like, wait, well, why couldn't you have gotten him in the second? And he's doing well. He's refusing to wear gloves. He's wearing the old school John Hannah face mask. Like it's crazy.
Him and Zion Johnson are the only rookie offensive linemen who have yet to be flagged. And that says something. Guys that, especially, Zion Johnson was a 5-year player, actually a former FCS guy like Cole Strange, but, he was well-seasoned, ready to step in, plug-and-play guy. Cole Strange, a little more of a question mark just because he's coming from the FCS level and the speed of the game. But, yeah, there have been a few hiccups, but he's played really well. You could make an argument that he has been the best interior offensive line rookie so far this year through 5 games.
And moving outside, so Evan Neal, and this is not a place you want to be, is Monday Night Football against Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. It's or DeMarcus Ware. This is not a place you want to be as a rookie tackle. And it showed. It was not pretty. And that's probably what most of our, exposure to Evan Neal this season until you saw him in London when they were again on the stage by themselves. Guess what? This guy's doing pretty well.
Well, and the game after the Cowboys was the Bears. And if you need a opponent to get you back on track, the Bears will help you do that. He didn't give up a single pressure against the Bears. And then, like you said, in London this past weekend, he did give up 1 sack, but he was at least, you see progress. You see him settling down, not being as maybe frenetic as he was in the first few games. So he's a guy it's learning on the fly. This is a player who was always bigger than everybody, always just better, going back to high school and IMG Academy, and then he goes to Alabama. And there's going to be a learning curve for a lot of these offensive linemen. Rarely do we see the Rashawn Slaters, the guys that just step in and are just all pros from the get-go. Those types of guys will kind of spoil us a little bit. When Evan Neal, let's be honest, is more the norm in terms of it's going to take some time. Ikemikwanu, same type of deal. These guys, it's not like they should have been drafted top 10. It's just going to take a little bit of time for them to settle in, take their medicine, learn on the fly, and they'll be better for it.
So let's talk about the weekend ahead in college football. We've mentioned Tennessee, Alabama, which is going to be a great one. There's 3 undefeated on undefeated Power 5 matchups this weekend. Yeah. So you've got Tennessee, Alabama. You also have Penn State at Michigan. You also have Oklahoma State at TCU. All of these are going to be really good games. The Tennessee, Alabama, there's so much intrigue because of Bryce Young. Will he play? Will he not play? But the Michigan Penn State game feels like an elimination game in the playoff race. And this will be a good one for the folks scouting too. Mozzie Smith's one that, top of Bruce Feldman's freaks list. We said, okay, how do they deal with losing Aiden Hutchinson and Ajabo? Well, Mozzie Smith plays a different position on the defensive line, but he has definitely shown that Michigan did not have an empty cupboard on the defensive line.
Right. This is it's fair to say, I think, that this game could be won in the trenches, which could say that a lot of Big Ten games. But I think with Mozzie Smith controlling things in the middle, because as good as Penn State's offense is, it's still Sean Clifford out there. It's still a passing game that I don't think you consider explosive. That there's question marks there, and so they're going to rely on the run game. And Michigan could be really good stopping the run at every level of that defense. So, and it starts with Mozzie Smith in the middle, who I think is really, instead of being hype, I think we're seeing the production on the field, which has been awesome to see. But Penn State can play. I mean, we've seen it throughout the year. I mean, some of those games, the Purdue game was a little bit closer than you'd like to see, but they've got talent on that team. And so check out, for the people who haven't seen him yet, check out left tackle Fashanu for Penn State. Yep. If there's a potential riser in this draft, it's Fashanu, who is a first-year starter. He has a chance to be in that OT1 conversation. Still young, just a redshirt sophomore. We'll see what he plans to do, but this will be a good matchup for him going up against a Michigan defensive line they don't have an Aiden Hutchinson. I don't even know if they have an Ajabo, but they are deep. On the Mike Morris, they've got like 3 or 4 guys that can get after you. So scouts will be focused on the trenches for sure in that one.
And a guy that we won't be talking about here for 2 more years probably, but watch Nick Singleton when he gets the ball for Penn State. Yeah, he's special.
5-star guy living up to that 5-star status.
Yeah, it's a fun one. At TCU Oklahoma State should be quite a bit of fun too.
How about Quentin Johnston? The game he had.
He looked the catch he made at the end of that game was unbelievable at the end of the Kansas game.
I think that well, there was a lot of question marks about Johnson coming into that game because in the first 4 games he had 12 catches.
Yeah.
He had more drops than touchdown catches, 3 drops to 0 touchdown catches. So, and there's a lot of hype. He was number 28 in my early top 50. So a guy that considered in the first round conversation had not lived up to it. It's not like TCU's offense has been bad. They've been pretty
It's been
good.
awesome, actually.
Right. So it's just, okay, well, what's going on? Why isn't he been more part of this offense? Well, that changed against Kansas. Was it 14 catches, 206 yards, and then that touchdown that you mentioned. Not only does he track the ball over his shoulder like that, but it was pass interference. He had to play through contact, bring the ball in, adjust to it, and still get his feet in bounds. So Quentin Johnson is a really unique player, right? First man miss almost every single time he gets the ball. It's really fun to watch him. Sometimes it's just through play strength. Other times it's he just has a feel for it, whether he's doing a little spin move, whether he's making a quick cut. He's very elusive and has a good feel for that. So of the 206 receiving yards he had against Kansas, half were after the catch. So there's a lot to like about what he brings. He's just a really unique athlete at 6'4", 215 pounds. So the big question is, okay, Max Duggan, can you get him the football consistently? And credit to him. He's playing really, really improved compared to what we saw last year. I don't know how much of that is the new coaching staff. I don't know how much of that is just, he's finally, showing the promise that he flashed earlier in his career. But, I think every year we find a guy like this to compare to Taysom Hill. He reminds me a lot of Taysom Hill, though, because he can throw the ball when you want him to, but as an athlete, he's big, he's physical, and he's fast. And so there's a lot of parallels between what Max Duggan gives you and what Taysom Hill can give you.
And like Taysom Hill, very good instincts on the read option. He knows exactly when to pull, when to let the back keep. Another guy to look at, everybody enjoying watching Rodrigo, Malcolm Rodriguez from Oklahoma State. Brock Martin, the defensive end from Oklahoma State, is in his 94th year of college football. I think when he gets to the NFL, he will be 37 years old. But he will probably give you a few good years in the NFL. This guy, again, just a football player kind of guy. Does he even get drafted? I don't know where he would wind up, but
probably not. He's a PFA.
He'll make a roster and he will play for somebody.
Yeah, he's a PFA. He's a little undersized. I mean, about 6'2.5", 250. But he's got 33-inch arms. He's got a motor on him. And he'll be, I think he turns 24 in March. So not super old, but a little bit older than you'd like. But that Oklahoma State team in general, they Texas Tech stayed around a little bit, but Oklahoma State eventually pulled away. So that Oklahoma State, are they the favorite in the Big 12? Maybe.
I think they are at this point. And now I think the winner of this game will be the favorite. I think that's because Texas now seems to be rounding into form. You saw Quinn Ewers come back for Texas, who's we'll be talking about him this time next year quite a bit. But now Oklahoma's bad. So I don't know exactly how much 49-0 against Oklahoma tells us, but it looks like Texas is pretty talented. And that's an offensive line. We're actually going to be talking about Texas offensive linemen here in 2 years, Dane.
Well, and they made such
the first time in forever.
Well, because they needed to. Obviously, they made such an emphasis to recruit those guys, and it's starting to show. So, the Red River rivalry is never. It felt one-sided from the get-go, and that was kind of sad to see. I mean, Oklahoma. Any chance Brent Venables is in danger of losing his job?
I don't think he's in trouble yet. If they're just pathetic the rest of the season, maybe. But if Dylan Gabriel, their quarterback, comes back, it will not look as sad. Part of it is their offense just can't do anything without Gabriel.
Right.
When Lincoln Riley left, obviously Caleb Williams left with him, and then they just didn't really have anybody waiting. So they grabbed Gabriel out of the transfer portal, but the other quarterbacks they had were not really ready. I'll be curious. Nick Evers, the freshman from Texas, if this continues, if Gabriel can't come back, because he took a pretty nasty shot and got a concussion, do they start getting Nick Evers ready to be the guy? Because that was the plan eventually. So maybe you do that now. But the part that bothers me more watching them play is Venables is a defensive guy. No, there was not a lot of talent on that defense. Like, we're not talking about those guys as draft prospects, but they're just in the wrong place. They're not fitting the run properly. They're passing. You have DBs passing receivers into zones that don't exist, where there's no player behind them.
Right.
And that needs to be fixed. And that's something that Brent Venables can fix. You can, if you can't do anything else, you can put them in the right place, and they're just not right now.
Part of me wants to see, because TCU's offensive coordinator doing a nice job.
Riley,
maybe bumping himself up a little bit. Yeah, maybe Oklahoma goes back to that Riley. Well, I don't know.
I don't know if they could pull that off. I think the fan base might revolt in that at that point.
What about Matt Rhule, who is now going to be looking for a job, probably back at the college level?
So Matt Rhule would be highly coveted by any of the jobs that are open, though I still think Wisconsin is angling toward just bumping Jim Leonard up.
Oh, yeah.
But Matt Rhule may think he can do better than the jobs that are open, and may want to sit for a year, may want to do TV. He'd be good on TV. But
so there's money that he's going to be receiving is unbelievable from the Panthers. They gave him a 7-year contract. He's out after 3 years. So I mean, he doesn't have to worry about a paycheck. I think it would make a lot of sense. Yeah. Sit back, kind of relax, reset things. And you could be really choosy about your next job.
I think he'd be really good at Nebraska, but I think he probably feels like something that is not as tough of a job as Nebraska is going to come. Now, Auburn's going to come open. Yeah. That's a job where you can win a national title, but I'm not sure he wants. You have to have a certain kind of temperament to be a head coach in the SEC at a place that expects national titles.
And let's be honest. I mean, I did not see him taking the Baylor job. That kind of felt like it was out of left field. So, who knows how he kind of looks at things, and, it's Matt Rhule is a little bit of a wild card there. That'll be interesting, but it's Carolina, obviously not a surprise, but they're going to be entering the offseason with, we'll see what they do with the GM. Scott Fitterer's his second year as GM. I don't know if they'll make a change there. It's a organization that needs to turn the page and starts at quarterback. I think if you're Matt Rhule, that might be your one regret. Maybe not one. I'm sure one of plenty. But the main regret is they had 24 draft picks in 3 years where Matt Rhule kind of ran things, and he ran things. With all the control he had. They drafted one quarterback, and that was Matt Corral this past year, who hurt his foot, and he's not even in the.
But they weren't picking him to start this year. It wasn't they weren't picking him as a franchise quarterback. And you're right. That's been the problem.
Swing. Yeah, I mean, the swings that you took were Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. I mean, you have to. I think part of it is he had a 7-year contract. He felt like he didn't need to. Make a huge splash on one of these quarterbacks early. But, 2 years ago, passing on Justin Fields and Mac Jones, or, the year before. So, I mean, he was, I think, not going after one of these quarterbacks and trying to groom him. That was something that I think was maybe one of his regrets. He never got the opportunity to do during his stint in the NFL.
And that may be a blind spot from college, because if you look, they never had great. I mean, he had PJ at Temple, but they never really had great quarterbacks at either place. They had good teams, but they didn't have that special quarterback. And to win at the highest level in college, you do need that special quarterback.
Right.
And so that's something that he's got to think about. If he wants to come back at a level where you compete for national championships, it's actually kind of the same thing. You got to get some 5-star, 4-star type quarterback recruits and then groom them and develop them, because at that level, it's very similar to the NFL.
Right. Well, real quick, last thing before we sign off. This is the update. There are 5 teams that are 1-4 right now, and in the lead for the top pick: Carolina, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Washington. And obviously, Vegas and Pittsburgh, they're not drafting a quarterback. Carolina, Detroit, Washington, 3 teams that very well could be drafting a quarterback. So there will be some competition there when we talk about the top quarterbacks and CJ Stroud and Bryce Young and Will Levis. There will be a little bit of jockeying for position with those top picks between these teams that could be in the quarterback market.
Trade down, take Hendon Hooker. Thank me later. That's all I got to say about that.
Big audition on Saturday against Alabama's defense. It'll be awesome to watch and see how it plays out.
I cannot wait, Dane. It'll be fun, and I can't wait to break it down with you this time next week.
Looking forward to it.